I didn't think we'd come to a point where the Democrats and leftist activists and Black Lives Matter would be explicitly defending child knife fights. Let it be said, do not fight people, period. The fight you win is any fight you can get away from. The first strategy from anybody is they're going to tell you to run, choose your battles. Don't get into this stuff. But we got this breaking story about a young woman. She's 15 or 16 years old, Ma'Khia Bryant. She was shot by cops as she was wielding a knife and about to thrust it into the body of another woman she had pinned against a car. An officer fired in defense of this other woman, killing this teenager, and the left is outraged. Joe Biden calls it tragic. Leftists and Democrats are literally saying, in no uncertain terms, that children should be allowed to have knife fights. I am not exaggerating. I will show you the tweets from these individuals, former Democratic staffers, Democrats themselves. I just don't even know anymore, man. Look, if this is not jumping the shark, if we've not already seen it, I don't know what else you want from me, okay? The activists are quoted as saying, we will never be satisfied. So what is our society doing? Just placating these people. At this point, I'm like, fine, y'all do what you want to do in these cities. You want to vote for this stuff? Don't look at me. You know, when Democrats were coming out and saying it was injustice what happened to George Floyd and stuff, I'm like, all right, man, let's have that argument. You know, Derek Chauvin gets arrested. He goes to trial. Most people seem to think some charges were warranted, maybe not guilty on all counts. Instead, it's just over the top, go overboard, throw it out the window. Now you got Valerie Jarrett or whatever her name is. You got Bree Newsom straight up saying kids have knife fights. Let them do it. And I'm like, what? What happened to telling kids not to have weapons? I'm going to say this in no uncertain terms for all of you listening. Please do not engage in knife fights. Please do not listen to what these activists, leftists, and Democrats are saying. It is wrong. It is a crime. Because I don't know, YouTube might get mad at me for even bringing it up. That's how insane these people have gone. Now, I'm showing you this story first right up here from August 5th, 2020. Black Americans want police to retain local presence. This is not an exaggeration. This is Gallup doing a poll and asking people who live in these areas what they want. And they said more police. I kid you not. More cops. So how is it that a psychopathic bunch of narcissists are literally now defending children knife fights? I don't know, man. I just don't know. How do you salvage this? I honestly do not know. We got the tweet. It was Bree Newsom. She tweets this stuff. She's protected her tweets. So we have this story from Twitchy. BLM activist Bree Newsom finds it frightening that white cops didn't let Ma'Khia Bryant do what teenagers have been doing for eons and kill a black girl. Had a knife in her hand, wielded it. I talked about this a bit in a previous segment, but I got to do the segment now because we're literally at the point where the White House has weighed in. Democrats have started weighing in, and I'm at a loss for words, man. I'm going to read for you what people are saying and talk to you about what we can expect now. Nancy Pelosi came out thanking George Floyd for dying in one of the most insane things I've ever heard. Police are now being told, essentially, you can't chase suspects in Chicago after the shooting of Adam Toledo. The police are told you cannot do your jobs anymore. I'm kind of like, all right, dude, look, I left the cities. I don't live there anymore. So what do you want me to say? I think everybody, it's time to get out of these cities because it's only going to get worse from here. Well, let's read this. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member to get access to exclusive members-only segments. We have articles on the way. We have new shows on the way, new podcasts. We are taking this thing up to 11. We're going to have new shows, and with your support, we can make it all happen. So go to timcast.com, sign up. We had Catalina Loft. She's running for office against the infamous Adam Kinzinger on yesterday. You can see this story as a member, but don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's get into the news, my friends. Twitchy. I showed you this. They say Columbus police body camera footage shows Ma'Khia Bryant apparently attempting to stab two people with a knife. While we don't know absolutely everything about the incident, it seems reasonably natural to draw the conclusion that Bryant, the girl in black, wasn't just minding her own business when she was shot. Before I read to you the things that are being said by Democrats, which I think are abhorrent, and the White House, though I do agree with the White House, it's a tragedy when anyone gets shot. I know. I'm not happy this stuff happens. Let me show you a bit of the context from News One to the best of our understanding so far. Keeping in mind, news changes. Okay, stories develop. we first heard about Daunte Wright, and the story seemed to be that he was wanted on a weapons possession charge. Turns out it was aggravated robbery. So these things may change. But here's what we're hearing so far. Micaiah Bryant, 16-year-old girl, called Ohio police for help. Officer killed her instead. The latest deadly Columbus police shooting came as the ex-cop who killed George Floyd was convicted of murder. Now, apparently, it's been reported several times that Micaiah Bryant was the one who called for help. In the body camera footage, however, you can see the cops are coming in. She pins a woman against a car and then lunges her knife back. That's not defense. That is not self-defense. If you're defending yourself, you have your hand up, you're armed, you're backing away. Many people are trying to claim that she was defending herself, and it may be that she was the one attacked initially. It may be that she then retaliated, but retaliation is not defense. Did Micaiah Bryant have the ability to run away? Yes, she did. Did she do that? No, she didn't. I'm sorry, that defines the case, and that context is going to be very important as I now show you what is being said. First, in a statement from the White House, they say the fatal police shooting of a black teen in Columbus is tragic. I 100% agree with this. I don't care why. It is a tragedy when people lose their lives. The Hill reports, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Wednesday called the fatal police shooting of a teenage girl in Columbus, Ohio, tragic, and said President Biden had been briefed in the matter. The killing of 16-year-old Micaiah Bryant by Columbus police is tragic. She was a child. We are thinking of her friends and family and the communities that are grieving her loss. Police in Columbus fatally shot the individual. We know this. Apparently, they had stated, quote, we know that the police violence disproportionately impacts black and Latino communities and that black women and girls, like black men and boys, experience higher rates of police violence. We also know that there are particular vulnerabilities that children in foster care like Micaiah faced, Psaki said Wednesday, noting that her death came amid a moment of hope for progress in fighting racism and policing. Our focus is on working to address systemic racism and implicit bias head on, and of course, to passing laws and legislation that will put much needed reforms into place at police departments around the country. I'm for police reform. I think we need to have a good, hard look at policing in this country, and we need to solve problems as well as fund the police. Cops need more money. They need more money for training, not for equipment. They need certain equipment, I think it's fair to say. They need more options and de-escalation, and they need better training, which means more funding for cops. They should also, in my opinion, be paid better. Well, we don't get that. We get the abolish the police crew, and we get statements like this. Psaki doesn't know anything about what happened, nor does she care. She's framing this incident as though it was an innocent 16-year-old unarmed woman being shot. That wasn't the case. The family came out and lied when the story first broke, claiming that Micaiah Bryant threw the knife. All right, let's jump right in, my friends. In a tweet from Bree Newsom, actually, let me show you the initial tweet. She said, teenagers have been having fights, including fights involving knives, for eons. We do not need police to address these situations by showing up to the scene and using a weapon against one of the teenagers. Y'all need help. I mean that sincerely. What? Teenagers should not be having knife fights. Police should intervene to stop knife fights between teenagers. And I'll also tell you, man, this wasn't a knife fight. It was one woman pinning another woman against a car and wielding a knife against her. This is nuts. I'm going to tell you right now, though. Don't commit crimes. Don't hurt other people. Don't be violent. But at this point, I can only say when the Democrats are arguing that cops should not intervene, y'all, cops, stop intervening. I guess the people at the scene got mad at the cops when the cops intervened. They got mad at the police. They blamed the police. Well, there you go, man. Bree Newsom follows up. Everyone should be frightened that the ruling white elite have done such a thoroughly successful job of not only disconnecting us from the means of basic self-sufficiency, but also convincing us we need armed white officers to manage our children and communities. Okay. You know what? I don't completely agree with that, but I do agree we need personal responsibility back. We need personal responsibility. And so long as these white urban progressives and suburban progressives can keep saying the cops will take care of everything, we're not going to have personal responsibility. So maybe I'll agree with Black Lives Matter on that point. Does that mean I'm safe, YouTube, if I agree with the Black Lives Matter activists defending the knife-fighting teenagers? I don't even know what the rules are in this case. I'm just going to report to you what people are saying. That's the best of my abilities. Valerie Jarrett. Valerie Jarrett. You may know Valerie Jarrett, proud mom and grandma, New York Times bestselling author, businesswoman, senior advisor to Barack Obama, advocate for equality and justice. Why, yes, this is a Democrat who said a black teenage girl named Ma'Khia Bryant was killed because a police officer immediately decided to shoot her multiple times in order to break up a knife fight. Demand accountability, fight for justice. Wait, what? I don't even know anymore, dudes. I don't even know. I had another segment planned and I was like, going to be talking about police reform issues. And then I'm like, y'all, are the Democrats literally defending what they call a knife fight? Do we have multiple Democratic personalities literally tweeting out that cops should not intervene when there is a teenage knife fight? All right, y'all have jumped the shark. I don't know. My friends, please share this video with your friends and family because I don't know what else to say to people to tell them these people are losing their minds. Most black people want cops around. Gallup reports that. Maybe they're wrong. Sure, fine, whatever. I mean, they keep voting for Democrats, so certainly they must not, I guess. But please just show your friends and family Valerie Jarrett and Bree Newsom arguing that teenagers should have knife fights and the cops should not stop them. I can only hope that the police would intervene to stop a knife fight. Now, this is not a knife fight because Ma'Khia Bryant was the only person armed. But there's more. Brittany Cooper, verified, associate professor, beyond respectability, feminists with 155,000 followers, tweets, a black girl is dead because the cops brought a gun to a knife fight. If you don't know how to de-escalate teen girls who are fighting, you should not be a police officer. I said what I said. And I don't want to hear it from the folks who keep on saying the cops protected other black girls. I am glad they are safe, but most of y'all don't give one F about black girls. You just don't want reasons to not hold police higher, better standards for policing. This is why our movements keep asking us to reimagine public safety and to defund police. Because the cops act like the only tool they have is a gun. And it's a failure of both competence and imagination. A lot of you will walk away from this and soothe yourselves with the language that this was justified. It is neither just nor justified. A black girl is dead. And if your framework of policing justifies this, you're part of the problem. I am done. All right. Cop shows up. Within a split second, she's got the knife and she's lunging. What should the cop do? In my opinion, the cop should do nothing. I think the cop should do nothing. Now, if it were me pinned against that car, I would appreciate the cop to save my life. But in these communities, there seem to be a lot of people who are surprised that these neighborhoods don't want police. Maybe it's because the Gallup poll suggests they do. But so long as community leaders and the Democrats that are voted in say, stop showing up, when will the police get it through their thick skulls? I'm sorry, cops, y'all are dumb. You go into these areas, they don't want you here. They tell you to stop, you don't. At what point does a cop just say, I get it, man, I'm not going to intervene? They got mad. The cops showed up. Stop showing up for any reason. Look, the left seems to think I am being salty and saying this to defend the cops. No, I'm literally defending the people in these communities who keep telling the cops to stop showing up. Stupid cops think they're playing hero, showing up to a neighborhood that's begged them to leave. I don't care, man. Mobs are burning down cities. Like, I don't care if you think you're a hero, if you're going to save people. I don't care if you think you saved this girl. They are begging you not to do this. They get to choose how their communities function. At what point will the cops just be like, all right, I get it. You don't want us here, and then leave? Dude, I'm so familiar with it in Chicago, where you get these calls coming in for gang crimes and stuff. And it's like, dude, if they don't want you there, maybe you shouldn't go for literally any reason. They call and they say, help, I'm being robbed. Dude, I'm sorry, man. You don't get to supersede the will of the voters in that neighborhood who want the police to stop showing up. I don't know what to tell you, man. This is the most extreme example, and it's crazy. So, I show you, this is the statement that came from the White House, which you've already seen. I have a couple other tweets. We have this from Kilani. ACAB, which means all cops are bad, to put it mildly. It means something else. Abolish the effing police. This is a verified Twitter user. 2.4 million followers. The same day we celebrate a verdict for another loss that should have never happened, a black child is murdered. Abolishment is the only answer. Dude, I'm down. I'm totally down. Too many of the cops should have stood up for themselves, and they didn't do it. Too many cops said nothing and watched as their departments were eroded and the rule of law was eroded and riots tore apart the city. And then the cities voted for Democrats. At this point, I'm just like, I respect the will of the people. Get rid of the departments, I guess. These cops should move out of these areas. People who live in these areas who are upset about it should recognize that their own communities have turned against them. And you don't get to dictate how other people want to live. If they want no cops, then let them have no cops. It's simple, isn't it? I don't know why we're having this argument as though we in the minority should impose our will on those who are voting for Democrats. If the Democrats want this and defend it, they should be allowed to have it. I guess if they want teenage knife fights, they voted for it. I personally oppose it. I think we should stop it. I get all that stuff. But what do I say to somebody who lives in a city who is begging me to allow them to live that way? I'm more libertarian, man. I'm like, if you choose to have mutual combat and it's, I guess, what am I supposed to say? I don't live there. I left. Take a look at this video. This video is important. There's a man standing on a curb. That's all. He's got his fist in the air. And a bunch of journalists drop to their knees and start getting the appropriate angle. It's a performance, man. It's not reality. It's a performance. I feel like so many conservatives are on Twitter acting like they're all concerned about these cops. And I'm just sitting here like, yo, you guys don't live in these cities. I mean, a lot of these people probably live in Washington, D.C. or around D.C. So I can understand if you feel personally slighted when they want to get rid of your cops. But most conservatives don't live in these areas. So just be like, all right, if you live in New York and you don't want cops, I don't live there. I don't vote. I'm not going to vote for whether you should have cops or not. I don't live in New York. I got out. Wasn't a fan of how they ran things. So if you vote to have it, okay. I live in a place where you can have guns. The people who live there vote to have guns, and there's constitutional carry. It's fantastic. I like that idea. So I came here. If I keep voting in a place where everyone disagrees with me, eventually I'm just going to be like, I get it. I'm the odd person out. Y'all don't want to be able to defend yourselves. Y'all don't like. So I was previously in New Jersey in the Philly area. If someone breaks into your home, you have to flee your own home. That's the law. You can't defend yourself. It's the craziest thing because, like, where are you supposed to go? I guess the argument is an alley. Run to the nearest Dunkin' Donuts at 3 a.m. hoping that they're open and you can be barefoot in the lobby or in your underwear or pajamas because someone broke into your house and you have to flee? I guess. What if you're like sleeping nude and then someone breaks into your house? In New Jersey, you literally have to leave your own home. Well, I live in a place where I don't have to do that anymore. Why? I realized voting in this place wasn't changing that. The people wanted to live that way. So I'm the odd person out. I'm gone. It's a performance the media puts on. It's not real life. The ACLU of Ohio tweeted, "The systems that allowed George Floyd to be murdered remain fully intact. Moments after we celebrated a win for police accountability, a 15-year-old was murdered." You get it. They say Ma'Khia Bryant should still be alive. Well, I'll agree with them on that. She should still be alive. I'm sad and I'm upset if anyone dies. Some people have said maybe the officers could have some less lethal weaponry. Yeah, maybe actually. There's apparently this thing they sell that you attach to the front of a gun. So the first shot out of it is a large blunt object which seriously injures someone but is less lethal. Yeah, maybe. Some people disagree because they say in life-threatening situations, the cops need to be able to use lethal force. They have tasers. I don't know the answers, man. I can only point out the absurdity of Democrats defending teenage knife fights because that should show you outright that these people are not serious people. They don't actually care about black lives. They don't actually care about justice. They just need to demonize the cops. Look, right now, there are some progressive YouTubers just talking about Donald Trump. I'm not going to say their name, but I'm like, why did you make a video about Donald Trump? That's the stupidest thing. I made a video sort of about Trump the other day about the Capitol riot. Nobody cares. It's old news. Okay, it is old news. We're moving on. We want to know what's happening now. But there are many people who are obsessed with their grift. So what do you get? You know what? They want to call me a grifter and all that. I don't care. When it should be plainly obvious to literally anybody when they're defending teen knife fights, they're grifting. They're so desperate to demonize cops. They're at the point where they're like claiming kids should be able to have knife fights. I don't even know, man. It should not happen. You should not have fights. Don't engage in violence. Don't commit crimes. Please stop this stuff. Please. Yeah, I don't think so. I have this one tweet I pulled up. This is from Zayed Jelani on Twitter, who writes, The Ma'Khia Bryant case is an encapsulation of the media and political class's pathologies. Had she simply stabbed the other girl to death, it would never have been made a national news story. Activists wouldn't have complained. Grieving family members would have been ignored. A whole lot of people who don't identify as libertarians have adopted the mindset that the only problem is the state and government, whereas the government's very first responsibility is to protect vulnerable citizens from violence, no matter where it comes from. I don't know what to tell you, man. I'll agree with you on the media and the political class's pathologies. And I think we have a really great example of the Democrats and the left have jumped the shark. And, some people have argued for some kind of accelerationism. Let them abolish the police. Let them say what they say, because ultimately the end result will be people finally realizing. I don't think so. I think most people have realized a long time ago the insanity and absurdity of the Democratic Party and the leftist activists, but they're still supporting it. I don't know what else to tell you other than let me read you another story about the sick pathologies of the Democratic Party. From Yahoo News, Pelosi thanks George Floyd for sacrificing your life for justice. Get out of the cities. Please get out of the cities. If you live in the city, you needed to have left a long time ago. Do you see the vlog we put up? Cast Castle is live, baby. We got the vlog up and you can see the house and the chickens and the skate park, all this land for cheap. It's a lot cheaper out here. And we have a company. We have more people coming. I am actively recruiting people for new projects, and you ain't going to be living in the city if you're working. You got to come out to the middle of nowhere. All right. Go out to the middle of nowhere. Chickens don't cost that much money. A couple bucks over at the Tractor Supply store. Maybe you can get some better quality chickens from a local farm. And they're hilarious. They walk around and they cluck and it's fun. Get out into the country, man. Enjoy life. There's flowers everywhere. My allergies are killing me. But only a few minutes away we got a river. We got mountains. We can go on hikes. We can go bike riding. You live in the city. You're cramped up in this cubicle concrete block. The police can't enforce the law. They're more interested in protecting government institutions than you during riots. And these places keep voting to strip away the rights of the individuals to defend themselves. I don't know why y'all live there. I lived there for a long time. Many people lived in rural areas for a long time. Many of the rural people are complaining to me saying, like, stop, don't tell city folk to move to the country. Now, if you move to the country, you better recognize that everybody's armed to the teeth. There's bears and coyotes. But if that's not for you, then you go ahead and live in your cubicle. Here's the report from Yahoo News. After the verdict in the trial of Derek Chauvin, Nancy Pelosi thanked George Floyd for dying, saying, "Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice, for being there to call out to your mom. How heartbreaking was that? Call out for your mom, I can't breathe. Because of you and because of thousands, millions of people around the world who came out for justice, your name will be synonymous with justice." I actually think you'll be synonymous with injustice, to be completely honest, because it's just riots. Pelosi's comments met harsh criticism, with observers noting that Floyd's death wasn't a sacrifice. Chauvin had just been convicted of his murder. In a subsequent tweet, Pelosi clarified her remarks. George Floyd should be alive today. His family's calls for justice for his murder were heard around the world. He did not die in vain. We must make sure other families don't suffer the same racism, violence, and pain. We must enact the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Man, it's a pretty incredible place that we live in. I gotta tell you this. We are never going to be satisfied. It's a quote from Black Lives Matter activists. Minneapolis BLM responds to Chauvin verdict, quite literally saying, "We are never going to be satisfied." Then what's the point of negotiating? Why is anybody caving to these individuals? Because they're scared, I guess. Because they know that conservatives will never show up to police or government headquarters demanding reforms. Because they know that the Second Amendment crowd are law-abiding citizens. And that's just that. It's kind of funny when you think about it. The people demanding they be disarmed are scarier in the minds of the politicians and the government than the people who actually have the guns. Maybe it's a good thing, I guess, because we don't want people going out with guns. No, we want good law-abiding citizens to be armed. Unfortunately, the good law-abiding citizens are not terrorists. Or I should say, fortunately for the government and for all of us, that's the case. We don't want terrorists to have weapons. But the people who are rioting and who are violent, many of them are actually pro-gun as well. I guess that's why the good law-abiding 2A people are going to keep and bear arms. This is tough, man. What are we supposed to say other than, please don't be violent. Please don't hurt other people. Please respect law enforcement to the degree that they're enforcing the law. We want police accountability. We want police reform. We don't want cops committing crimes. Anybody, anywhere, for any reason who commits a crime should be arrested. Anybody who engages in violent acts to further a political cause should be arrested and charged. If for some reason that's not true on the Democrat side, for some reason YouTube, Twitter, Facebook allows this kind of rhetoric. Protesters heckle a Brooklyn taqueria after Chauvin verdict as white demonstrator leads chants telling white owners to get the F out of New York, saying, we don't want your white taqueria. Is that how you pronounce it? Taqueria? Mexican restaurant? That's allowed. They get away with it. No punishment, no crime, no censorship. Check this out. Chicago police may have to check with their supervisor before chasing suspects on foot after 13-year-old Adam Toledo was shot dead in the city. Someone's shooting at cars and armed, and it's a child. You better not intervene, cops. If you're a cop in any one of these cities, I think you're stupid. If you're staying, maybe you're planning on getting out now, sure. If you're a resident of one of these places and you're staying, I think you're stupid. I'm sorry. I think you are not smart if you're staying while all of this is going on. And your votes and your taxes prop the system up. Now, what's going on over in red states? 34 states considering anti-protest bills introduced by Republicans. In 34 different states, the Republican legislatures are proposing anti-riot laws. If you choose to live in a blue state at this point, I don't know what to tell you, man. You can go to a red state. You get your constitutional carry in many of them. You have neighbors respecting you. You need to respect them the same. And if you move there, you need to respect their laws and the way they run things, because you don't want to create another nightmarish dystopian city. Or you can choose to live in these cities, I guess. So don't come complaining to me. This is why I don't understand why conservatives care about abolishing police at this point. Why do you care? You live in the middle of nowhere. I do. I don't care. There was a period where I did. I needed my local police department. They were great. They were really nice. They helped protect my home. I don't live there anymore because it was getting bad. The riots were spreading out to the suburbs. Now I don't care for whether, I mean, there's a sheriff's department. I live in the middle of nowhere. It's up to me to defend myself. I'm not going to worry. There's no police department where I live to abolish. The complaints about racist police are all in Democrat-run cities. That's on them now. When are you guys going to be like, okay, we'll move to Florida? I think Florida is one of the places to be completely honest. Texas is apparently pushing through a bill that would allow someone to file an injunction if they get banned from social media for political opinions. That's huge. That would negate the rules of many of these Silicon Valley companies. They say, oh, you can't say these things about this group of people. It's political opinion. It would be protected under Texas state law. I don't like the idea of disparaging people based on, certain characteristics. I do like the idea of protecting political speech. However, I think you need to have a strong opposition to racists, bigots, transphobes, homophobes, and all that stuff. But I believe in free speech. The Texas law is it goes well beyond, it's bold. We'll see if that happens. In Florida, they have a similar law about politicians. It's not the same. But Ron DeSantis seems to be doing all right, paying attention to what's going on, actually respecting the will of the people. I'll tell you what I find interesting. Republicans don't fight back. Republican politicians don't fight back. Fox News overwhelmingly agreed with the verdict in the Chauvin trial, save Tucker Carlson. That's amazing, isn't it? Who does Hannity represent? Remember when Tucker Carlson was talking about Amazon profiting during the pandemic? And then when he hands off the show to Hannity, Hannity's like, private corporations are allowed to do what they want. And Tucker gave him the Tucker face. Millennial right-wingers, I suppose, are populist, are slightly economically left in many ways. It's weird, isn't it? It's very, very weird, isn't it? But Fox News agrees with this. I don't even get it. Nothing makes sense at this point. So I think it's funny when people try to claim that I'm right wing, and it's like, there's no left or right anymore, dude. Anybody who comes out and tries to assert a hard left or right along some kind of political policy position, there's tribes. I guess there's the tribal right and the tribal left, and then the disaffected liberals who get called right wingers. I guess because disaffected liberals agree with conservatives on the absurdity and insanity of what's going on in this country. But here we go, baby. Summer hasn't even started yet. Spring has just begun, and we're already into the riots, Democrats defending knife fights. So I don't know what else you want me to say. Now, I will add one last thought. I guess for those listening on the podcast, this podcast episode might be a little redundant because a lot of things are going to be repeated, as most of my segments on YouTube are separate segments. But when I was going to do something on police reform and mostly focus on these laws, but when I saw these Democrats defending the knife fights, I was like, all right, we got to talk about this, man. We got to address the level of insanity that has infected our political discourse. So I ask but one thing of you. Share this video. Show people what's going on. And they can disagree with me, but please ask them to justify the statements from these Democrats defending teenager knife fights. Ask them to defend that. It shouldn't be defended. If these people should be getting strikes or whatever for defending this stuff, incitement to violence. Ain't going to happen, though. Whatever. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. It will be live. Should be fun. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.